God never changes, his word never changes, but what does change is the culture around us. So the training that we need to do to equip them to think well and to think biblically, it looks a little bit different today than it did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It was during my time teaching, seeing, these students coming from Christian homes where their parents were intentional at discipleship, me being passionate about God and his word and giving them a biblically based education all day long. Most of the kids were fairly involved in a local church, but they were just rapidly absorbing ideas without any question. And I suddenly realized that, God never changes, his word never changes, but what does change is the culture around us. Yeah. And in this cultural moment in which we live, even if we're very, very careful at limiting screen time, limiting the type of things that enter our home, still our children in 1 year of their lives are going to be faced with more competing ideas than most humans throughout history have been confronted with for their entire lives. So the training that we need to do to equip them to think well and to think biblically, it looks a little bit different today than it did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So that's what we're all about at Foundation Worldview, is just equipping parents to equip their children to understand the truth of the biblical worldview.
I love that. I think one of the greatest privileges of homeschooling, aside from being with our kids and building that relationship with them, is that you hear people often say, you learn best by teaching something, right? It is the best way to truly understand the depths of whatever it is that you're trying to teach, learn is to actually teach it. And I have found that to be true in my homeschool journey with my kids. We're on year 13. Our oldest is going to graduate this at the end of this school year. Our youngest is in 7th. And so as we've gone through our years of homeschooling, I have learned so much more by teaching my kids than I ever learned sitting in a classroom. And I learned stuff sitting in a classroom too, but when you have to teach it and be there with them, you learn so much more. And so as you talk about the attributes of God, it really is helping our children to understand the character and nature of God, but it's helping us to understand the character and nature of God. And I think that is the greatest privilege, is for us to dig in deep as a family, because like you said, education is best done at home. We believe, of course, and according to God's word, when our kids are being taught when they rise, when they sleep, when they stand, when they walk about the way, when all the things, when they're being taught the truth of God's word, it changes everything for them. Homeschooling is not the gospel. We say that all the time. It doesn't save our children, but being able to point them to Jesus is the most important thing. Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.